So this is Baruch here. Excuse me. With the Tikkun Elevator Kollel, I'm really your lift manager. I call this the reader. I'm really reading it and getting it into it myself. Some of these things are really fantastic, and we're going back to the ultimate connection with God. And let's not waste too much time here, and let's go into the actual experience. Now, Rabbi Mimran here is talking about what's going on when we meditate and what we can actually do. Now, he says this is the orientation that we need to have. He says the soul is comparable to a very long branch. This is from Shari Kedusha. I think I should mention that. What happens with this branch that sprouts forth from its roots, which is attached to the tree and extends into the body of man? Now, let me see if I can understand that. I'm not sure that I understand it itself. The fact that he says the soul is comparable to a very long branch. So in other words, we're connected to something. We're like at the end of the branch. This branch sprouts forth from its roots. So there is a root. In other words, if we say in Hebrew, it's a shorish. It's a point of beginning, which is attached to the tree. Now, the tree we don't really understand 100%, and extends into the body of man. So this root extends into the tree is into the branch into the body of us. And that's where we could look at our soul, our neshama. He says, well, the person desires to connect to his source. Because here we are, we're cut off in a world of darkness, where half of what's going on, we have no idea how we got here, when we're going to leave this place. Well, the person desires to connect to his source, the light of his mind, which is the light of his mind, or the light in his mind. The light of his mind, which was referred to as the thing being perceived by the perceiver. And I'm sure this is really complicated words. I'm not sure I understand them. So let's take it apart. We'll slice it a little bit. Well, a person desires to connect to his source. The person wants to connect to his source. He says the source is the light of his mind. Now that's an idea that really needs to be embellished, which is referred to as the thing being perceived by the perceiver. So that perception, your perception, I'm really struggling with this. Going on. Also known as the perceptual soul. Now, we've been talking a great deal. I'm trying to put this together, touch it up with what other things we've learned. So he had said that the concept of you becoming the watcher, the watching of your thoughts. That watching is another word for perception. So he says there's an element within us, that we can attach ourselves to, which leads all the way up to the root. So this goes up to the eternal mind itself. That goes along with the upper root, which is actually the higher root of his soul. So I think that we really got to align on this. He says, here we are here. We're always struggling in our thoughts. We have this problem, that problem. I've had some health issues the last week. Believe me, it dominates my thinking. And so as a result of that, it's going to be hard to get out of that or thinking about it. But then you could. That's what he said. You could look at what you're thinking. And he says that looking at what you're thinking, the looker is the perceptual one. And that perception, that concept of perception, goes all the way to the root of our connection to the Ein Sof Baruch Hu. So he says, there they attach to each other and become one through meditating. So meditation is a technique whereby we can watch and then understand what the perceiving concept is, thus creating an energy bond which comes from the mind to the perceiver. So the ultimate mind is perceiving. It follows that he will perceive the light and the energy itself. It then descends from the mind to the thinking soul. Now, here I thought when he was saying mind, that I understood what he meant. Now he says, though, the mind is in a higher level. There is something like an ultimate mind, which is only one mind. And we're all connected to it if we want to find the connection. It then descends from the mind to the thinking soul. That is the perception of the person himself, I guess. Let's see what he says. This energy and tangible light is the concept called thought, machshava. Understand this well, because this is not an empty concept. This is the Shari Kedusha. If misunderstood, then you have nullified all the concepts pertaining to meditation through prayer. So he says, if misunderstood, then you have nullified all the concepts pertaining to meditation through prayer and all the thoughts of man, whether good or bad. Let's just look a little bit of the words of Rabbi Mimran now. Now, what I took from that is that it's possible to connect through the perceiving soul to the perceiving aspect as we watch what we were doing. Could do it right this minute. And it would be possible there through that to ascend to an even higher level. So he says, as the mind merges with the human spirit, we become unfettered by the rigid, constricted limitations of the physical universe and the forces of din permeating it. Now, a lot of this needs explanation and thought also. He says the human mind and the human spirit. Now, these are Rabbi Mimran's words. They're different from the words of the Shari Kedusha. We become unfettered by the rigid, constricted limitations of the physical universe. So I'm thinking that he means this merging of yourself, your awareness of watching, being able to watch yourself and becoming the watcher, moves you into higher levels of perception. This is my words, but I think that's what he means. And as this happens, a person becomes unfettered by the rigid constriction limitations of the physical universe, because that's what's about. The physical universe is full of din and the forces of din permeating it. As the mind expands into the realm of spirit, in other words, beyond what he said, the constrictive limitations of the gevuros, of dinim, of creation, of constant creation, it's like going backwards. Our consciousness attains access to numerous dimensional planes above our own. Now, what they are, or what he wants to say, let's see what that means, because as we start to talk about the planes, we bring them downwards. Because as we describe them more and more, they become more and more physical. So he's talking about something that's beyond physical. Thus, when we perform a meditative visualization technique, it has repercussions far beyond the confines of our limited physical space. Therefore, as it is below, so it is above. What we think about or meditate on upon here below manifests above. So let me see what he says again. He says he's not defining the planes, that is the different dimensions that we could, because that defining itself is an act of din. Thus, when we form, and so you're expanding, going the opposite direction. Thus, when we perform meditative visualization technique, which we don't have right now, but let's see if he's going to give that to us. It has repercussions far beyond the confines of our limited physical space. Therefore, as it is below, so it is above. As things grow down below, they grow up above. What we think about or meditate upon here below manifests above. So I'm going to stop there. This is Baruch Flashman going very slowly over here in Rabbi Mimran's tremendous work here. This is the Tikkun Elevator Kollel.